Hello, good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us at this design conversation webinar. So today we have one of my good friend uh, designers, Nicola Dali. So I'll pass the thing back to you, Nicola.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Chunwei, for inviting me. Yeah, it's always inspiring whenever when you have like people coming outside from the school, for sure. I mean, I always loved that back in the days. Um, okay, so today we're talking about creating impact with design. Um, well, maybe just like quickly before to start, I should introduce a bit more what I do. So basically, yeah, I have my own graphic design studio based in Bangkok that I've been working with for like almost maybe 10 years on that very specific studio. Myself, I'm working as a graphic designer for like about 20 years now, and been traveling a lot and working with international clients all those years. Our studio Kuos, we're doing quite a wide range of graphic design. We're specialized a bit in branding, which is something that we do quite a lot, but we do a lot of 360-degree kind of design, meaning from branding to web, including video. We do a lot of illustration and animation, a lot of typography. We do some layout work. I mean, which is good. So we don't get bored. I want to say. All right. So now let's switch to the presentation. So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna have like few words about some techniques or some things that are always quite important in the process, in the strategy of design, in the thinking process. And then after I'm gonna go through like few case study and few works that I've been doing over the years. All right, should I put the full screen here? Okay. So one thing very important, I guess, that we all, have in mind or should have in mind is how to create something different, which is not always easy. We have to say these days we have a lot of, we have internet. I mean, before we used to have books, but I guess now information goes even like further. Social medias and Pinterest and Behance and you name it, which is very good, though it's like an excellent source of inspiration. But it's always important to cut yourself from all these, even though that's good food for your brain and for your work. It's important as well to like be sometime able to like think by yourself and try to find inspiration, right? So I just wanted to do like.
Sorry, Nico, I have to cut you. Your slides is not changing.
Is it
Yeah,
now?
maybe you have to share full screen. Share your entire screen. Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Is it better now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So we're gonna stay like that.
Okay.
So now I just wanted to do like a brief exercise to talk about something. So basically, here you have an image, a graphic image done with like polygons and triangle full of color. So all this is pretty much abstract, and okay. So what's happening basically is that what you see is not exactly what you get. in the process. What I mean by that is what you see is basically 10%, and the 90 other percent is whatever your mind process. And just to explain you what I mean here, we go back to the same image, and I'm going to show you, which should be abstract. Maybe you can already see something, but okay, this is the original image. All right, so you see this monkey hang to the tree. Now that I feed your brain with another image, all right, your brain like processes actually what you should be seeing, and if I go back to the same image, normally your brain knows already, what to read. So all this to say that in the design process, it's important to play with that. It's important what's in your brain changes what we see, and this is important to know that in the design process. Basically, that's to illustrate, for example, if you do a logo and there is like a negative space, right, which is true for a lot of brands that do that. That's always the interesting tricks to play with, and that like fits your design. So how to create something different? I'm gonna have like another quick exercise and example to illustrate that. So here you see two different tables, right? One on the left is like vertical, elongated, the other one horizontal. And the interesting thing is, if you draw actually the tabletop, right, shape on the left, shape on the right, what's important to see is that you take the same shape from the left, we're going to flip it, and what's happening is basically this is the exact same shape. So all these to say as well that it's really important to play with things, pay attention and see the world in a different way. That's going to be your force all the time, and that's really how you can like come up with interesting things, to search, and all your influence, everything that you see, everything that comes to your brain, you have your own inspiration, you have your own creativity, and by playing with that, you're going to be able to always come up with something surprising. That's a short quotation from David Bowie that it's interesting. I just put it like because I thought it was meaningful here. He said, there is no point being more than 15 minutes ahead of your time. If you are 16, nobody will get it. So that was a funny quote, just to say that, to bounce back on whatever I just said, is that it's always very good to be creative and come up with like something new and innovative. But you always need to stick to something, that people can understand as well. So that's there is always a right balance to find. Otherwise, nobody can get it, and nobody sees where you want to go. I guess that's why we don't have yet like some flying cars and things like that. Something a bit too futuristic. Anyways, creating impact, transforming something familiar. That's gonna be the base of like the first work that I wanted to go through with you. So that was a commission work from a big newspaper in Thailand, which is Khaosod News. We've been asked to like redo the branding, the full branding of this newspaper. So we've been like thinking about many things to go back to the initial purpose of what is news. News, there are like people going out in the street with their microphone, or reporters asking questions and reporting about things, which is why there is a speech bubble, and there is like the classic newspaper that we all know. And so we've been like trying to see what we could come up with, being like very easily understandable. And so, playing with shapes, we just ended up with like folding a newspaper, and that will like slowly come up to a speech bubble, which is how we came up with the logo, which is very simple. It's very minimal, but it's easy to read these two different shape, and has a lot of impact with people. It's been like very successful. So we've been working through like all the branding. I'm just gonna go through like quickly all the things we came up with. So that's part of the brand guideline. Different color scheme for the website. Each color being like a crime, business, environment, like a topic of the newspaper. We came up with some cool quotes, to do like a series of posters. We've been even using this for their main office. It's kind of a inspirational quote, not being a bit funny. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people, which is about like what life is in the news. Here is some name cards. Here's the website. Okay. Now that's another project that was for like a production company called Channel 60. So more or less same exercise. They come up like to they ask us like to come up with a branding for their production company. So we've been thinking about like many things. They do as well some film. So we went back to the origins of like of what it is, and from the film we just like came up with this logo, which is CH and 60, representing the film strip that you can recognize. So that's always the interesting thing about doing some logos, right? Is to play with the meaning, play with the, whatever you can, mix some concept if you can, to come up with something fresh and creative, yet easily understandable, which is the point. Okay, and briefly I go through the collateral, name cards. Here's a bunch of name card, the branding guideline. We love to play with fonts quite a lot. And come up with like some pretty bold design. Here's a poster for the Channel 60 tote bags. So we had like a concept of like stripes to come up with like different figures and be able to play and come up with like a cool aesthetic, you know, being like quite consistent all the time. Okay, Tomatito is a Spanish restaurant that is based in Hong Kong. Now I believe they opened like quite a few other shops, like in the Asian region. With that client, the logo was there already, but they wanted to come with like something fresh, something funny, you know, to just like promote their restaurant. And then we had the idea that it would be like quite interesting to now play with the pop culture, especially the Spanish pop culture, since we're talking about like a Spanish restaurant. And good for us, in the team there is my partner. He's a Spanish dude, and we were able to like come up with a lot of, you know, we decided to come up with a lot of pictogram about, you know, Maradona, all sort of emblems from Spain, you know, that could be like super cool to play with. Some actors, you know, paella, pan, and all sort of things. And that would be a good base to actually come up with their menu, which was on the form of a newspaper. You know, something very graphic, very bold that you want to open, and then we could as well, you know, start to create some posters to promote like specific events. Oh, here is like Julio Iglesias. I don't know if you guys like know it abroad, but he's a very famous Spanish lover singer. You can see with this open jacket. You know, so whenever you know the reference, it helps to raise the smile. Okay, here, you know, we have we came up with the bicycle and a bottle of sangria. You know, here we use the paella pan, you know, as a swimming pool for the paella Sundays. You know, the sexy tapas. She's quite of a famous star in Spain as well. Okay, and that ended up as an exhibition too. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually talk about one project that we've been working on not too long ago, but that was a big project that lasted like more than a year. So this project that would be more, let's say, of a case study. So I can explain you a bit like what is what is the process of coming up with a big client, and how long it can last, the design process. So triptych. First of all, when we've been approached by some developers, so yeah, just to let you know, we've been approached by developers that wanted to develop 3 buildings just nearby the Tate Museum, which is the biggest museum in London. So we were like first like incredibly excited because they wanted a very creative approach. So they asked these buildings. They were like on one part condominiums, on the other part some shops at the bottom of the buildings, and they wanted to have like a cultural center as well. So something, since they are in the creative area of London, they wanted to stick to this. And in the shops, there were like some co-working space, and like very creative people. Um, so very exciting project. Um, so this is CGIs um, of the building that you can see here, and at the left corner, that's the Tate Modern. So that's really really close by. Um, so we need to think about many things. First of all, now the project is called Triptych, but we need to conceptualize, come up with a name, what was inspiring us, and what would inspire the people to eventually buy the condominiums, which is the main purpose of all this branding exercise. So I'm gonna go through like the different routes. I'm not gonna show you everything that we've been doing, because it was lasting for more than a year. All this back and forth proposal and feedbacks and like rework some new concept, and all these. But just to give you an idea of of what is the process through like a full 360-degree campaign. I mean, not campaign, but like branding, like this one. So looking at the shapes, looking at the area, looking at what should be inspiring. Here we put together a first mood board related to the keywords that we wanted to work on for this route, which were inspiring, original, generous, because of these round shapes, unique, expressive, and fluidity. So that recalls us about like some sorts of abstract sculptures, some like super round and generous shapes, yet expressive. All this, we need to always keep in mind that people are gonna be living there and using these facilities. So this is always something that you need to keep in mind. And this is the first name that we came up with, which is Muse. And we wanted to keep exactly what I just showed you, some like round shapes, something very feminine, almost, with a very inspiring name, which is Muse. Of course, something short and easy to remember. We were quite happy with this first direction. So with that, we came up with some like font system, some color scheme as well, to correlate with the office part, the retail part, and the residential part. So we could easily like recognize with what we're talking about, and how we communicate. So this was the first mock-up of our brochure that we approach in a contemporary way. In the Tate Modern, they used to exhibit a lot of Calder, Miro, expressionist. So all this work, we had to like really dig into like the history of the Tate Modern as well, and the area, and find some like inspiration anchored to something that was existing, but coming up with something new, which was the purpose of it. Okay, so this is the books that didn't end up in that form, but that was used to promote the building to the buyers. All right, that was the residential area version, and then here is some snippets of the first layout we came up with. We've been asked to work on a hoarding, which is still now at the moment. I mean, the hoarding is still there because the building is still under construction, and that was like a pretty big area. Some bags, you name it, name cards. Okay, so here we're gonna enter into the second proposal that we worked on, and this one was more anchored into. So here you can see the sculpture. We wanted to focus more on the fact that people are going to interact, and we wanted to think about something connected, community, the interaction, something unique, and taking into consideration each individual that is going to be living there and working there. So that was the first mood board that we put together to express all these keywords. And that's the one of the version that we came up, and we came up with first time the name triptych. Triptych because obviously we wanted to stay into the art world, and since there is 3 buildings, that it made sense for us to use the word triptych, which is impactful and easy to remember, and that have a lot of meaning next to a museum. So here's like the color scheme. Then we wanted to really go a bit further with the playfulness, and the connectivity and all that. So we wanted to extract from the font system. We wanted to extract some shapes to be able to play with, and almost like a pattern. So that was one of the photos mood board that we put together as well. So we wanted really to put in the communication some people which are in the center of what we're talking about, and use all these small shape extract from the font system, to use in our shooting, so people will really play with the shapes and on the place, basically. So that was the second concept. Here you can see the 3 brochures that we plan to put together for each of the area: office, residential, and retail, with bold colors. Here again another overview of using the dots as well, to go from one page to the other of the section. Some layout. Name cards, and some bags here, using either the design or either photo shoot. And now we are jumping into the third proposal. So we still wanted to come up with something, creative, but we thought it would be cool to think about something modular. Hence, like the images on this mood board, something still interactive, original, but creative and inspiring. So work and play, which is as well one of the purpose of the building. Uh, and we came up with this one. So representing the shapes of our three buildings, and that could be like a good base, to have like these wooden toys almost, that you can play with, and you can play with negative space and all these kind of things. Here we use like a counter form. So all these done with a grid. Here's the color scheme. Here, here is the system, how we wanted to build this logo, with the grid system, always respecting the same shapes and the same form, and by shifting the blocks through the grid, different shape can be created, giving a specific quality to each secondary language without losing the initial coherent language of the main brand direction. Also, each specific secondary language would include main color scheme, facilitating the understanding of the system. So, as simple as it is, that was like a little bit of research and drawing and throwing a lot of direction as well. And we were quite happy with this direction though, because that was a good system to play, for example, with shootings, with images in general, using masks and forms and counterforms. This would have been great for the video. Here is a mock-up of the hoarding. We actually came up with a first digital hoarding. So we're using like really these like shapes, moving and having like revealing a lot of new images and graphics. Here's some books, so we could use all these shapes as a pattern, and I think we would have like gone even further after, by using some why not interface in the main building as well, kind of like a living puzzle, like to show like some information and hide them, and we could have gone like quite far with a modular system like that. Anyway, so these were basically the first proposal we came up with for this job, and we've been doing really quite a lot of iteration. When I say a lot, is probably 50 up of presentation, mock-up, like rethink. The good thing was that we kept actually the triptych as a name from this like first round, but then we went through like gradients, different concept, and I'm gonna just like go through the last iteration that you're gonna see is quite different from whatever I just like presented now. Oh, sorry, it was like few images like showing the layout and image system. Here you go. Yeah, and the final result. So after like reviewing like 50 times, we came up with, we kept triptych as a name. And actually the client fell in love with the very first news proposal, and that wasn't easy to adapt triptych to the shape. Obviously, much more letters, which was a bit more difficult to keep the fluidity, the sense of like floor plan where people could like go from one place to the other, keeping like some very feminine shapes. But this is how it ended up, the logo. Here's another 3D rendering of the place. So to show obviously triptych used as a sign. Here's the font system we've been reviewing. The color scheme. And eventually, the client asked us to work on something more related to paint. They wanted something a bit more organic. So at the end, we decided to go to a studio and to use our color scheme and to come up with like a lot of swooshes of paint. So we did like dozen and dozen, if not like hundreds of them, trying to play with them, just like keep them, play with them and try to see what we could like come up with. And so this is a snippet of like some of the swooshes that we ended up having. All these to obviously use it to the same brochure. Once again, different swooshes for different brochure. Here's like a layout. So eventually, we ended up going to London for this project because we needed to take care of the shooting. Of the shooting for the hoarding for the brochure. We had to do the casting of our model. That's the website. One of the usage of the paint. Here again for the tote bags. Okay, here we go. And then we've been using actually the swooshes to come up with a scarf that we were using for the photo shooting. As well, in our mission, we were supposed to shoot a video trailer. So that's one of the reasons why we went to London as well, to do the shooting for the stills, but as well to do the shootings for the video. Here's another usage of the paint swooshes. Okay, so now that's another part of the job that we were supposed to do, is like think about what we're going to show to promote that building. So we needed to come up with like concept. Obviously, even if the client wanted to go like very, very creative, we ended up doing something a bit more corporate, almost Getty image. But that's one of the things that you always need to keep in mind. You need to fight as much as you can if you have an idea. Because in general, if you let it go, you're not going to be happy with the idea, and the client is not going to be very happy with the idea, because it's going to be like just some sort of compromise. All this to say that like through this entire year, we've been fighting for some creative ideas and specific direction. We won few battles. but not all of them. And especially for the video, we wanted to go like very far, and we ended up with the result that I'm gonna show you, which is good, but it's not how um, it's not as good as we wanted it to be. So yeah, to come back to the storyboard, well, that's just an example to show you. I'm not gonna tell you the story, but it's just an example to tell you like how far we had to go in our conception of this work, right? And which is cool as well, because this is when you are at your office. We were in Bangkok working and thinking all that, but then after comes the reality, which is like incredibly exciting. Even if you don't have all your ideas, the thing is like we needed to have like a proper production team to take care of the shooting, and we were there as art director and to make sure that everything would follow the original idea and the client would be satisfied. And this is the video. I'm gonna show it now. Yeah. So what was like really important for the client at the end is was to really sell the area to the investors and whoever wanted to buy the condominium. So we had like a lot of CGI animation that we didn't use because it was more important to show to everyone like where it was in London. Anyway, so that was just like a case study uh, for you to see how I mean, like a full an entire the entire process for a 360-degree campaign or communication project. Um, that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you just for now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. It has been great since the last time I met you uh, until now. So and in Bangkok also you have organized this street arts event, right, called Book Group.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. So that's an even. I mean, I didn't prepare anything, but just like to explain you quickly. Yeah, that has been like a great adventure in Bangkok. We did 2 editions. We were supposed to do a third one, but unfortunately we didn't have the funding we expected. But yeah, I invite you to probably go to YouTube and see what we did. If you go to YouTube and you type BUKRUK. So basically, this idea just came. I mean, I know that you guys are quite familiar to street art because Penang is quite active and has a lot of amazing walls these days. Back in the days when I was living in Penang, I have to say that it was not at all, you know. And in Bangkok, neither. And so just the idea came up. I guess a lot of you guys know had the chance to go to Bangkok. You know, this like crazy city full of building, some nice and some not, and you know, some like areas that has like a great charm. Well, I mean, you know, in a way, the places where we've been doing the street art is quite similar to Penang. You know, we did that, especially the second edition in Chinatown, um, and a lot of like almost abandoned places. So we obviously didn't want it to touch all the heritage buildings, and you know, but actually we used like all the more crappy buildings, you know, next to these beautiful places, and invited like great artists coming from everywhere in the world to paint them, being like quite respectful as well to the culture, and trying to, for some of the artists, you know, work with the community and try to, you know, even tell a bit more of the story of the inhabitants there. And there was like a beautiful adventure. So yeah, just go and you can see the short documentary that we did for these two editions. Yeah, I invite you to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, because when you did book crook, I think for the first time, right? Mama Faka, the late Mama Faka was there as well,
Yes.
and
Yes.
also there are lots of lots of uh, uh, artists, designers, like big names who happen to be there, who are not
Yes.
painting anything. I remember. Mama Faka was like taking photo with Futura. Futura
Yeah.
was there, right?
Yeah.
So
Futura came.
that's is
Futura
a
came.
very
Yeah.
rare person to see.
Indeed, yes, yes, indeed. And then the second edition, we had like very big names like Nichos and Aries, Roa, who is like one of the older like street artists that probably has the most famous wall in Berlin. You know, and since it was the chance for them, one of the chance for them to come and visit Asia, Southeast Asia, because like nothing on that scale, you know, ever really happened. You know, and not in Thailand for sure. You know, there were all these big names that all the big festivals in the world tried to have, and we had the chance to have them because you know they had their friends like coming, and that was the chance for them to like discover a new place and a new way of doing things. And it was like really great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So okay, we have question. So the
Yes.
first question from Aya. What would the client usually approach you for, and why? I think I will rephrase it is why you have to come up with all sorts of design like book design, video, and so on. So is it because it's one of the whole branding package that you
Yeah.
propose to the clients?
Yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to sell in general. Uh, well, what is important? What is important basically is to keep. Uh, okay, if you have the opportunity to work only on the logo, let's say color scheme, whatever, And then after you leave that to the internal designer, that work in this or that company, the thing is like you might end up like crying because your design has been just destroyed, even if you've been working on a very solid brand guideline. It's not respected. And this happened to us, unfortunately, way too many times. So, we work on like a solid branding. We do everything correctly. We brief everyone, and we provide some templates, even for posters, so we can make sure that they don't mess up with anything. But he often ends up like that. So that's why we are trying to like keep an eye on everything. And if we have the chance and the opportunity to sell to the client like a full collaterals, books, design, video, and all that, we can make sure a little bit better that the branding is respected.
All right, thank you. Okay, next from Felix. You have been experimenting with a design process so much. How do you decide that's the design work for the particular project?
Well, this you really need to. That's part of the thing you need to think first when you first like conceptualize. The first step of the design is going to be just a pencil and keywords, and you try to like record whatever the client tells you at the first brief session, and then after like thinking about like all that, basically that's where you start like taking your pencil to actually draw things, but you need to really conceptualize and decide what's going to be best for the client. Obviously, after some time, there is like a style. I mean, you have some habits, basically of like the way you design, the way you use font. So that's going to be your toolbox. Everybody has a toolbox, and the same then you've been like looking at like many books and classics, all these things. Normally after the years, you can like detach yourself from that and start expressing the way you see the design, the way you want. So that's kind of like a very fluid process. But the important always is to have a solid concept and spend some time thinking about like where you're going and why you're going to use this or that tool, if that answers.
All right. So I hope Nico answered all your questions. All right. So since I know you, Nico, you have been working remotely. Just like what I did as well, right? So we have been working remotely. I mean, like when you were in Penang, you have been working for clients in France. You are
Yeah.
in Bangkok. You are working for clients in somewhere else as well as in Bangkok, and now you are in Reunion Island, but then your company is still in Bangkok. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you think that remote working actually works, or it's a bit hard?
No, okay, it works. What's important? Let's say, okay, now I'm working remotely, so I spend a lot of time. My partner is still in Bangkok, right? So I'm spending a lot of my time on Skype reunion. Like we even like leave the camera on, and we do things and we comment, we share screen, and that's how we do. So sometimes it's even more efficient because like we see each other screen all the time, and we design, we comment. It's even more effective sometimes than having your colleague at the on the other room or something like that. But this is good. But I just wanted to say that here now I'm in Reunion Island. I have an office here that I'm sharing with other creatives. because to me that was very, very important as well, to have different designer and designer in different fields. I have even like architect working here, so it's always very interesting to like show your work, to get some feedbacks, to get some other like way of seeing things. So that's really the thing that is important in like an office work, or at least like
Yeah.
working with other people. I would say just like always like get some, you know, ideas and share your things. And often you're like by yourself and you don't know, you feel that you're stuck, you don't know what to do. So it's always important to have this kind of feedbacks. But on the other side, just like in terms of like, this is what more for the creative process, let's say, working with clients, seeing the clients is very good these days. Working with the States or Europe or Russia or Asia or wherever, people are very used to do these kind of things. And I even work remotely with some client, even when I was back in Bangkok. I work a lot for like NGOs like the Red Cross or the United Nations and things like that. These people are like very busy, and very often we ended up like having reunion, like meeting on Skype as well.
Yeah.
So remotely. So I guess that's one of the new habits of the people now. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I think with the pandemic is happening, people started to accept remote working, remote meeting, and all these things. That's how that's how having you talking to me at tonight is
Yeah,
made possible, right? I mean, just imagine if before this pandemic, I don't think I have the budget to have you fly over to Penang
I
to
would have
give
enjoyed.
talks.
I would have enjoyed it with but
Yeah.
yeah, even if it's not that big flight, I would say, in Bangkok especially, I tell you that you spend much less time in traffic jam, because like to go
Yeah,
from
true,
A
true.
to B, you can spend like an hour, and it's only 5 kilometers, right? So mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. True. We spend I've spent some time in your studios back in Bangkok before.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so thank you so much for tonight.
yeah.
Any other
Thank
questions from the audience out there? No? Okay, so if there's no questions, thank you so much to everyone who joined us in this session. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks to
Thank you for
you.
your time. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
It was a pleasure.
Luckily, it's not a midnight over there.
No, it's good. It's good.
All right, thank you. So,
Okay.
in our next session on the 22nd of July, we have another strong guy in the Malaysian advertising industry. So he is the one who did logo for Petronas. His name is Asri Ahmad. So he will be joining us on the 22nd of July. So join us again at the same time on Thursday, 22nd of July, uh, on Equator College Facebook page. All right. Thank you so much. Good night. Have a great evening and have a great weekend. See you.